Structuralism analyzes language and literature as structures. The theory of structuralism uses interconnected signs or symbols to reform systems of relationships. Literature may be related by a particular genre, intertextual connections, a narrative structure, or a system of patterns or motifs. To understand this literary criticism, one must look for what it has in common with other literature rather than how it differs. Looking at the big picture rather than what is just in front of you. What is structuralism? Structuralism notes the importance of binary oppositions. Binary opposition is a key concept that states that all elements of human culture can only be understood in relation to one another and how they function within a larger system or the overall environment. Example: light versus dark, upper class versus lower class, male versus female, good versus evil, in versus out. Semiotics: the study of signs or signals of communication, including words, Morse code, music, traffic signals, gestures, facial expressions, clothing, etc. Anything that communicates meaning. This theory works to discover the structures that underlie all that humans do, think, observe, and feel. Structuralism is oriented toward the reader. Structuralism isn't interested in what a text means, but in how a text means what it means. Lois Tyson. Questions one could ask in order to answer the theory of structuralism. How should the text be classified in terms of its genre? Can you speculate about the relationship between the text and the culture from which the text emerged? What patterns exist within the text that connects it to the larger human experience? What rules or codes of interpretation must be internalized in order to make sense of the text? What is the semiotics of a given category of cultural phenomena or text? History and background. Structuralism rose to prominence in France in the wake of existentialism in the 1960s. It focused on the way that human behavior is determined by various structures. The most important initial work on this score was Claude Lévi-Strauss' 1949 volume, The Elementary Structures of Kinship. By the early 1960s, structuralism as a movement was coming into its own, and some believed that it offered a single unified approach to human life that would embrace all disciplines. Two important theories formed structuralism: Charles Sanders Peirce and Ferdinand de Saussure. Peirce gave structuralism three important ideas for analyzing the sign systems that define our experiences. 1. Iconic signs in which the signifier resembles the thing signified, such as the stick figures on washroom doors that signify men or women. Second, 1. Indexes, in which the signifier is a reliable indicator of the presence of the signified, like fire and smoke. Third one, true symbols, which the signifier's relation to the thing signified is random and conventional. Just as the sound cat on the written word cat are conventional signs for a feline. Peirce also influenced the semiotic school of structuralist theory that uses sign systems. Roland Barthes and Jacques Derrida were the ones to focus on how structuralism could be applied to literature. Context. The structuralist school emerges from theories of language, and it looks for underlying elements in culture and literature that can be connected. Barthes, among others, showed that the laws that govern language govern all signs, from road signs to articles of clothing. Structuralism was heavily influenced by linguistics, especially by the pioneering work of Ferdinand de Saussure. Saussure's concept of the phoneme and his idea that phonemes exist in two kinds of relationships. Diachronic, the way language has evolved through time, and synchronic, study of language at only one point in time. Although structuralism was largely a European phenomenon in its origin and development, it was influenced by American thinkers as well. Noam Chomsky identified and distinguished between surface structures and deep structures in language and linguistic literatures, including texts. Examples of structuralist criticism. Structuralism can be applied to virtually any text, as it functions as a system of meaning no matter how many works there are, 2 or 200. Good example of this lies in childhood fairy tales. They follow a similar structure of problem, solution, and moral. Common intertextual connections of royalty, monsters, or animals. Another in dystopias, common themes of violence, survival, nature. Hunger Games, Maze Runner follows a structure of solving the problems following a post-apocalyptic event. The Great Gatsby is an excellent embodiment of binary oppositions which underlies its theme, setting, characters, and the meaning of symbols. Illusion and disillusionment in theme, ideal land and realistic world in setting, insiders and outsiders in characters, superficial meaning and implied meaning in symbols. These opposed pairs serve as good illustrations of the deep oppositional structure underlying the novel. Problems. A potential problem of structuralist interpretation is that it can be highly reductive. As scholar Catherine Belsey puts it, the structuralist danger of collapsing all difference. An example of such a reading might be if a student concludes the authors of West Side Story did not write anything really new because their work has the same structure as Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. In both texts, a girl and a boy fall in love. A formula with a symbolic operator between them would be boy plus girl. Despite the fact that they belong to two groups that hate each other, boys group and girls group are opposing forces, and conflict is resolved by their death. Structuralist readings focus on how the structures of the single text resolve inherent narrative tensions. If a structuralist reading focuses on multiple texts, there must be some way in which those texts unify themselves into a coherent system. The versatility of structuralism is such that a literary critic could make the same claim about a story of two friendly families, boy's family and girl's family, that arrange a marriage between their children despite the fact that the children hate each other, and then the children commit suicide to escape the arranged marriage. The justification is that the second story structure is an inversion of the first story structure. The relationship between the values of love and the two pairs of parties involved have been reversed.